Parvati Bhagini, you can start chanting. You're self-muted. Parvati Bhagini, do you want to chant or should I?
Yes, ma'am. Now it's working. Okay.
Go ahead.
ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनम् देवकी परमानन्दम् कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलम् गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम् नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम् लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहरहः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद्भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसि न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। हरि ओम्।
धन्यवादः भगिनी। Sadashiva-samarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Param Varishtam Brahmishtam Paramanandarupinam Paramarthanandayatim Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. So Lord Krishna had completed answering all the questions of Arjuna with verse number 24. And from the 25th verse up to the end, right, Lord Krishna is consolidating the teaching, and he talked about the knowledge gathered from the teaching and also the benefits derived from this knowledge. Therefore, Atma Swarupam, Swarupa Jnanam, Swarupa Jnana Phalam. This was what we were seeing, and we completed verse 28 in the last class. So we saw in verse 28, Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinashyat swavinashyantam sapashyati yapashyati sapashyati. So he who sees the Supreme Lord, who dwells alike in all the beings and who is imperishable among perishables, alone really sees. What this basically means is the jnani never loses sight of, or pashyati means he never sees anything different from consciousness everywhere. So he is, though he knows that consciousness cannot be visually perceived, right, he discerns that in every living being there is only consciousness, and it is the same consciousness that is blessing each and every living being, right? So exactly like in every electrical appliance, we discern the electricity principle, and the jnani discerns the supreme higher nature in all living beings uniformly, regardless of caste, creed, status, species, what species they belong to, the living beings, etc. So in English, a sage is called a seer, and here Lord Krishna gives that as the definition here, right? So ya pashyati sa pashyati. So the one who sees both kshetra and kshetrajnaha. So basically, a slightly advanced concept is in the world, he sees as the Sat aspect, that is in the Achetana Tattvam, he sees it as the Sat aspect and Chit aspect in the living beings or the Chetana beings. Continuing. Samam pashyan hi sarvatra, samam pashyan hi sarvatra, samavasthitamishwaram, samavasthitamishwaram, nahi nastyatmanatmanam, nahi nasyatmanatmanam, tato yati parangatim. Tato yati parangatim. So the advantage of this discriminative vision is the absence of wrong expectation from the world and from the people. What happens is all the pains that we have are caused by wrong expectations. What happens? We think I did so much for this person so many years back. I lent a helping hand when he was in the hospital. I did this when he needed something, but he is not reciprocating that, right? So we must remember that sometimes people who come to our rescue are some people for whom we may not have done anything, right? Where you never expected, right? So if you have expectations, that is what leads to disappointment. So jnani does not have any such thing. Whatever comes is okay, no regrets, right? But no expectation. Therefore, he is free from samsara. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, samam pashyan hi sarvatra, seeing the kshetrajnaha, which is the uniform principle in everyone. Avasthitam, right? Samam avasthitam, basically. So, which remains very well and changelessly, and that consciousness alone is Ishvara. So, repeatedly our scriptures say Ishvara is in us, and we don't need to go elsewhere at all, right? Nahi nasti atmana atmanam. He does not destroy himself spiritually. Spiritual destruction comes from perpetuation of samsara, right? So the samsara will continue in the form of relationships, right? Objects that we have, possessions, professions, etc., right? That will cause, that will continue. But Vedanta says my own self-ignorance alone is the cause of samsara. And if the ignorance does not go away, who is responsible? It is only we who are responsible. So I am perpetuating my ignorance, right, by not following spiritual sadhanani, right? So samsara continues, right, if we are not able to discern the consciousness behind all the living beings. And I am responsible for this punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam cycle, right? Jnani is one who has avoided the samsara, right? Therefore, nahinasti atmana atmanam. He does not hurt himself by himself because he does not have wrong expectations. Tato param gatim yati. Not only that, he enjoys the life as an entertainment. In the vision of Lord Krishna, all the events are nothing but shadow play, right? Or movies at the level of Nama Rupa only. There is only one essential truth behind the movie, which is the screen. So the screen behind the Kshetram movie is the Kshetrajnaha, right? So if you remember this, the movie will not torment you much, right? You can enjoy and use it as an entertainment. But if you forget Kshetrajnaha, then Kshetram becomes very, very powerful, capable of hurting me. Therefore, the only way out is remembering the Kshetrajnaha at all times, exactly like the musician bears the Shruti in mind all the time, right? So, all the worldly things are unpredictable, uncontrollable. Even our own body, mind, everything is uncontrollable, right? We cannot stop aging. That is the nature of Kshetram, right? So, understanding the movie as a movie, right? Jnani sees the world in this manner and he enjoys the samatvam of the mind, which he calls Jivan Muktihi, the balance of the mind, right? And when he dies, because of the power of the knowledge, he avoids Punarjanma. Therefore, Param Gatim Yati. Because Punarjanma is heavily determined by a deep yearning for something, right? So, Jnani does not have such a deep yearning, right? Because he is Atmana eva Atmana Tushtaha. Right? Param Gatim here means Videha Mukti, he attains. Videha Mukti is freedom from Punarjanma. Continuing. All very important verses coming up. Prakrityaiva cha karmani kriyamanani sarvashah. Prakrityaiva cha karmani kriyamanani sarvashah. Yapashyati tatatmanam. Yapashyati tatatmanam. Akartaram sapashyati. Akartaram sapashyati. Here, Lord Krishna is talking about the consequence of this knowledge. How the knowledge works for a jnani, and that can be understood only when we see the consequence of ignorance. When I don't know the fact that I am Kshetrajnaha, the witness Chaitanya Tattvam, the consequence of self-ignorance is going to be mistaking the body mind, which is only a temporary medium for me to experience this world. I mistake that temporary body mind as myself, right? That new I, which is created by the wrong identification, is called ahankara. Because of ignorance, ahankara is aham. So it gets replaced by ahankara. which is the identification with the body-mind complex, and automatically the three personalities will emerge from this, which is the integral nature of ahankara. And these three are what? Karta, bhokta and jnata. Karta means doer, bhokta means experiencer, jnata means knower. And all these three always feel incomplete and lacking one thing or the other, right? So I want to do a lot of things all the time, right? I have a huge bucket list of which are all the places I have to visit, right? And that list keeps growing, right? So always I will have this feeling of incompleteness if I associate myself with the body-mind complex, right? So as a karta, I am sansari, and as a bhokta also, I want to enjoy many things, and always there will be a huge list and I may not be able to do this. Similarly, as a jnata also, I may want to learn so many things, and always there will be unanswered questions, right? Why did Bhagavan create this world, right? Why is he unfair? It will continue, right? So very important aspects here. As a karta, bhokta and jnata, you can never fulfill the personalities, right? And one or more of the samsaras will continuously be there, right? If it is a case of jnata, it will be intellectual samsara, which is bothered by some profound question or the other, right? So a jnani is one who has withdrawn from the cycle of birth, and he is withdrawn from ahankara, and therefore he is able to get out of that or transcend the cycle of birth and death, right? Because he sees himself as akarta, abhokta and ajnata. Therefore, what happens when he does not associate himself with any of these? He is not accumulating any papa or punya karma, right? So that is what is said here. Ya atmanam akartaram pashyati. Jnani sees himself as the kshetrajnaha, the purushaha, the consciousness principle, right? So therefore he treats himself as the kshetrajnaha and akartaram, that is my real nature, akarta, abhokta. So akartaram, which is akarta, abhokta, apramata, and therefore not lacking in anything. Only as a karta, bhokta, you lack something, right? Very important, right? So as a jnata, you will lack even more. You go into a library, you will know how much you still don't know. You look at the internet, you know how much you don't know, right? So whereas jnani does not have any of these inadequacies, saha purnaha bhavati, right? So what about all the type of karmas in the world? All the types of activities, sarvashaha kriyamanani, being performed, right, at the physical level, the verbal level and the mental level, kaika, vachika, manasa karmani, all of them prakrityaiva kriyamanani, they are done by the body mind complex alone. Body mind will come under prakriti, right? So prakriti, from prakriti alone, the body mind complex has evolved, right? So body mind is a product of prakriti, right? And he in fact sees, he disclaims the body and he sees tatatmanam akartaram. He disclaims the body as an object, right? And he claims the consciousness principle. Atmanam akartaram pashyati. He sees the non-kartrutvam in that, right? He looks upon himself as the Atma, right? Atma means in this chapter, Purushaha Kshetrajnaha. So I am akarta, abhokta as far as the body is concerned. I have got only limited control because body is subject to desha, kala and prarabdha, right? So the time and place will determine the conditions of the body, whether it is healthy place, healthy environment, or you know how we are now affected and going through a big virus phase, right? So we will be impacted, the body mind complex will be impacted by desha, kala and prarabdha also, right? Our own karmas of the past, right? Therefore, instead of identifying with the body, jnani learns to decide and defy. Saha pashyati. he is the person of right vision, right? He never gets attached to the body. He uses the body, but he does not get attached to the body. Continuing. Yada bhuta prithak bhavam, yada bhuta prithak bhavam, ekastham anupashyati, ekastham anupashyati, tata eva cha vistaram, tata eva cha vistaram, brahma sampadhyate tada. So, the prakriti, the matter principle, evolves into the manifold universe, right? So, even though the universe is varied, right? And we must understand that it is the same prakriti which is subject to division, and therefore it has got plurality. Whereas Purushaha, we have seen this so many times, Purushaha, it can never be divided. It is without CAD. It is not subject to change. It does not have attributes. It does not subject to division as well. It continues to be one all-pervading consciousness, right? And just as in one undivided space, the universe evolves and merges and the space continues to be one, accommodating all the plurality. The space itself has no plurality. It accommodates all plurality. So exactly like that, the consciousness also accommodates all the multifarious universe. So the universe evolves from one non-dual Purushaha, and the universe resolves into one Purushaha. That is what is said here. Yada bhuta prithak bhavam. So the diversity of the things and beings, right? Tata eva vistaram evolves out of one Purushaha, the Chaitanya Tattvam. Yada pashyati, when a person understands, just as we go to sleep, we go to bed, right, as one individual, and out of ourselves in dream, we create many things and beings. Similarly, from one Purushaha, Tattvam, the whole creation evolves. So Vistaram means evolution. Not only has the pluralistic universe evolved from that Purushaha, right, and ekastam anupashyati, the pluralistic universe rests or is based on this one Purusha only. In short, Purushaha or Brahman, right, here we refer to it as Purushaha, is Srishti Sthiti Laya Karanam iti yada pashyati. If one sees this, what happens to him? Brahma sampadyate tada. Not only that Jnani really understands that non-dual Purushaha, but he also understands the non-dual Purushaha is non-different from me, which means that is me, right? So the non-dual Purushaha, which is the Jagat Karanam, right, is not different from me, right? So when we recognize that Brahman, it can never be an object. It is recognized or discerned as only the subject, right? So Pujya Swamiji gives this very nice example. Imagine we are in the dream and, right, I've given you a, in fact, earlier also I've, talked about Swamiji's statements, right? For a dreamer, dream is not a dream in dream. For him, it is a waking state. For the dreamer, in the dream, right? It's a maha waking state. Imagine in the dream, there is a guru, and the guru knows the dream as dream, right? And he is teaching the dream disciple that there is someone who is the creator of the dream, sustainer of the dream, and resolver of the dream. Shishya asked the question, how can I meet the person? Guru and Shishya are having this conversation in the dream. Except that Guru knows that this is a dream, the Shishya does not know, right? And suppose he asks, the Shishya asks the question, how can I meet that person who is the creator of this dream? I want to meet the creator, right? Then the Guru says, the only way for meeting the creator is you have to wake up, which is called awakening. So spiritual awakening is this Uttishta, Jagrata, and the Shishya. After long Shavanam Mananam, he wakes up, right? And when he woke up, he understands who's the creator of the dream, the waker. And after waking up, where do I find the waker? After waking up, right, I don't find the waker somewhere else. I find the waker in myself, right, which I could not believe when I was in the dream. Similarly, when Vedanta awakens me to the original creator, I don't meet the creator. I only claim the creator to be myself. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, Tada, on awakening, Brahma sampatyate. The jnani does not discover Brahman, jnani becomes Brahman. Very important point, right? So when one sees the diversity of beings to be based on the one self and their origination also to be from that self alone, then one becomes Brahman. Continuing. Anaditvan nirgunatvat, anaditvan nirgunatvat, paramatmaya vyayah, paramatmayamavyayah, sharirasthopi kaunteya, sharirasthopi kaunteya, nakaroti na lipyate, nakaroti na lipyate. Here, Lord Krishna is instructing Arjuna. Arjuna, it is worth knowing and claiming the Asanga Purusha as I am. Because if that Purusha I don't claim and I'm lost in the changing world, many things that I hold on to can get lost. Like the carpet underneath our feet, right? It can just get pulled off, right? Anything I hold on to in the creation, because it is of the nature of Prakriti, right? It is subject to change and there is no stability. And that whenever we remember this, we must remember the example of having a Ganga Snanam in Haridwar, where they have these chains on the banks, right? If you hold on to the chain, right, and then have a dip, then in that fast current also you enjoy the dip. If you don't hold on to the chain, you're gone, right? So similarly, hold on to the stable Brahman and enjoy the life as an entertainment, right? So very, very important. When we remember this, then we are able to hold on to something very, very stable and then continue with our life, right? So it's also like, you know, when you sometimes when you go up the mountain, when you're hiking and there are a lot of these leaves that are fallen everywhere, right? Like sometimes you just keep placing your feet, right, in one place and then the next place, and you keep on going down, right, until you sort of catch on to a, you know, a strong a foothold or a stump of a tree or something, right? So similarly in life also, we need to find a stable thing to hold on to, right? Anchor. So that is what Swamiji says. We have to move to from world dependence to God dependence to then self dependence or Brahman dependence, right? So if we start using other people as the support, that person may be dependent on something else, right? And that is not stable, right? So always it is better to depend on, go through this journey from world dependence to God dependence to self dependence. So we have Krishna, Rama, Devi, etc. But later on, after Upanishadic study, we have to understand God also as a person cannot be available all the time, because anybody or anything is subject to arrival and departure. Even avatara will have to come and go. Therefore, we have to change from God as a person to God as a very Atma, right? Very, very important. So God dependence to self dependence, right? And that's what Lord Krishna says here. Anaditvana nirgunatvada ayam paramatma. So this paramatma is Kshetrajnaha, the Purushaha, the Chaitanyam, anaditvat, being beginningless, therefore not subject to death or disappearance, and nirgunatvat, being free from attributes, not subject to change like old age, right, senility, etc., all these are not there for Paramatma. Therefore, I am avyayaha. Avyayaha means non-decaying principle. And where is that Paramatma? You don't have to go somewhere. Sharirastha. He is very much within the body. Only you have to shift the attention from the changing body to the changeless consciousness principle. So, Sharirastha api kaunteya na karoti. This Paramatma does not do anything. He is akarta and na lipyate. Is not affected by karma phalam. Therefore, abhokta. So you can use the body and act in the world, but whenever you are going through tougher times and you don't find anything to cling on to, then you should learn to come to the center of gravity, which is Brahman or Atma, right? So being birthless and attributeless, this supreme self is changeless. Though dwelling in the body, it neither acts nor is affected, O Arjuna. Yatha sarvagatam saukshmyat, yatha sarvagatam saukshmyat, akasham nopalipyate, akasham nopalipyate, sarvatravastito dehe, sarvatravastito dehe, tatatmanopalipyate, tatatmanopalipyate. So Lord Krishna describes the nature of Atma, which is our own higher nature, which has been named Kshetrajnaha, right? In the beginning, and then later Purushaha, then Atma. They're all just different words. They refer to the real higher nature of ours. And in these two shlokas, Lord Krishna gives two brilliant examples which can be used for Atma Jnanam or Vedantic meditation. Meditate upon the Atma. Meditation itself can be very abstract, right? Because Atma is abstract principle, right? So we will require some kind of a simile or comparison. So two wonderful examples are given here, right? So Lord Krishna borrows them from the Upanishad, right? One example is Akashaha or space that is given in this shloka. And in the 34th shloka, the next one, a second example is given, which is called Prakashaha. Both are basically Kasha, Akasha and Prakasha. Right? First, you start with Akasha Dhyanam for a few minutes. Akasha means space, and we know it is everywhere. And the nature of the space is what? We have to visualize space is sarvagataha, all pervading. Space accommodates everything. That is why, right, when you enter a room, you look for space, right? Space is the one which accommodates people, right? So space is all pervading. Space is formless. Space is indivisible. Space is one. Space is unaffected. Space cannot be contaminated, right? You can do more like this. You can keep on extending and then see how it is, what are the common features, etc. with consciousness, right? So it is one all pervading, accommodating, indivisible, unaffected, formless principle, right? And having visualized the space, later we have to shift the attention exactly like the space to the consciousness principle, which is aware of everything that happens outside and that happens within also. Therefore, space like consciousness I am. So this is one type of meditation. And for that, the mind has to become extremely subtle, because when space itself is abstract, naturally consciousness is as abstract as or more abstract than space, right? So you can't say consciousness is space, right? Because space is also coming under material principle only. In fact, now we have experiments which say space is elastic, etc. Right? So space is also a subtlest form of matter principle only, right? So therefore, space is considered as a jadam or object, right? And consciousness is or subject is chetanam. So may you practice this meditation. I am space like consciousness principle, right? Yatha akasha, just like akasha, sarvagatam, even though sarvagatam is all pervading, even though it is associated with everything, it is not contaminated by anything. Na upalipyate, not because space is away, but it is transcendental, uncontaminable. Na upalipyate. Saukshmyat, because of its extremely subtle nature, right? That is why scientists are still trying to understand space, and it is still very elusive, right? And the definition of space continuously varies, right? When they actually thought one time that space is nothing but a material called ether, right? So they had a full theory there. Then therefore, thereafter they dismissed that also. Then they thought it is void. Then they thought it is empty. Then they realized that space and vacuum are different, right? So they are still trying to discover, but Vedanta says it is a subtle matter only, subtlest form of matter, right? So, and it is not affected by anything. Similarly, Tata Atma, in the same way, the Atma also is inside and outside me, right? So, we need long Shravanam Mananam to imbibe this, right? So, Deha Avastita, Atma is real and it remains in the body. In all the bodies, Sarvatra, Sarvatravastitaha, Atma Dehena Upalipyate. It is in the bodies but is not affected by the bodies. So, body is mortal, I am immortal. At the time of death, I don't die, right? From this particular body. It is the medium which dies and through which I'm able to experience this world. So when the medium goes away, I'm not able to experience the world, right? But I continue to be there, always experiencing the world through all the bodies. Therefore, I never die, and as far as the body is concerned, it can never be immortal. Atma is ever immortal, body is never immortal. So accept the mortality of the body, claim the immortality of yourself. This is Lord Krishna's message. Na upalipyate. Continuing. Yata prakashayatyekah, yata prakashayatyekah, kritsnam lokamimam ravihi, kritsnam lokamimam ravihi, kshetram kshetri tata kritsnam, kshetram kshetri tata kritsnam, prakashayati bharata. Prakashayati Bharata. Now comes the second famous example for consciousness, and that is Prakashaha, the light principle. And generally we take the Surya Prakashaha, the sunlight, because the sunlight is more all pervading. Like you can see it pervading everywhere. In fact, the entire earth is pervaded by sunlight. And when you say sunlight, you cannot take the solar disk which is far away, right? We're not talking about the disk itself, but we're talking about the light which is spread everywhere, right? So eka prakashaha, it pervades all over. And what is the nature of that light? It is one. It does not have any form, right? It cannot be divided. Light illumines all the people by spreading over the people, and light is never contaminated by the impurity over which the light pervades. Thus, the light has got all the features which Akasha has got, right? There is only one slight difference, which is Akasha accommodates everything, Prakasha illumines everything, right? So one accommodates, the other illumines. Therefore, the second example for Atma Dhyanam is Prakasha. Therefore, in Vedantic meditation, right, you imagine, right, there is a room in which light is pervading and all the people are coming and going, people of different shapes, size, height, weight, etc., right? So even though people are many, the light in the room is one. People come and go, the light does not come and go. The objects are divided and there is gap in between objects, but the light is undivided. Certain areas are dirty in the room, but the light is never dirty. Even when all the people vacate and you say that the room is empty, even in that empty room, there is that light continuing, and the emptiness of the room itself is known, aware because of this light only. Having meditated on this for some time, we have to come to our mind and take the mind itself as the hall. In the mind, what is happening? People are coming, right? Worries are coming, going, varieties of thoughts are coming, people thought, event thought, things thought. So raga, dvesha, all of them come and go. And as Swamiji says, they all have a march past in front of you, right? And they go, come and go, and all of them are known and sometimes unknown also. They're all illumined by some light. And what is that light? The light of consciousness. Because of that alone, I am conscious of the first thought, conscious of the second thought, and the consciousness itself does not arrive and depart when thoughts come and go. Thoughts are many. The consciousness in the mind is only one. Even when all thoughts go away, suppose, that's not easy. Even if the mind becomes blank without any thoughts, right? This itself is a major step if you can get here, right? Blankness, right? So when it is blank, right? Because the blankness, it is really not blank even when you feel there is no thoughts, because the blankness of the mind is illumined by some principle which pervades that mind, and that principle is the light like consciousness principle. And having turned your attention from the thought to the awareing principle consciousness, right? That light of consciousness is not an object I should be looking for. It is myself, because I am the light like consciousness who is aware of the arrival and departure of the thoughts. Therefore, I am Chaitanya Jyotihi. Aham Asmi. Right? Chidambara Aham Asmi. Ambaram means Akasham. Chittas Jyotihi Aham Asmi. Right? These are the two types of powerful Atma Jnanam. Right? Serious students of Vedanta can practice this. And very beautiful and powerful shloka also. So Lord Krishna says, Yata ekaha ravihi. One Surya imam kritsnam lokam prakashayati illumines the entire universe, and the illumination is not a job done by the sunlight, right? It is just present and everything gets illumined. It's not that Surya Bhagavan has to, raise and then think every day whether I should illumine the earth or not. No, right? Surya Bhagavan does not have to think at all. His mere presence illumines the world. So Ravihi actionlessly illumines everything. Tata, in the same way, Bharata is Arjuna here. Kshetrajnaha, right? So Kshetri. So Lord Krishna is changing the words because he has used all these words, right? Instead of Purusha, he keeps switching between Kshetrajnaha and Purushaha, right? And Kshetri he calls it, right? The Atma, right? One Atma, right? So this one Atma is there in all the bodies, Kshetram or Atma, right? So this one all-pervading consciousness, in fact, Krishna said this in a verse earlier, Kshetrajnam chapi mam viddhi, know me as that one consciousness. This one all-pervading consciousness, Kritsnam Kshetram, not through one body, this Atma cannot illumine the entire world through this body, right? Only one area can be illumined, right? So basically, through multiple bodies, the consciousness shines, right? So in Swargaloka, there is Indra, and the same Atma illumines that Indra also, right? So the illumining principle is Ekaha, that one Atma I am, right? So Kshetri Kritsnam Kshetram Prakashayati. So reveals, illumines, He Bharata, right? So this one single Atma illumines all the bodies, whether it is bodies in the Swargaloka, whether it is in Manushya Loka is called Mrityu Loka, any of these lokas, any of these bodies, it is illumined by the same Atma, right? He referred to here as Kshetram or Kshetri, right? Continuing. Kshetra kshetrajnayorevam. Kshetra kshetrajnayorevam. Antaram jnana chakshusha. Antaram jnana chakshusha. Bhuta prakriti moksham cha. Bhuta prakriti moksham cha. Eviduryanti te param. So, the aim of the spiritual seeker is to know the difference between this Kshetra and Kshetrajnaha, otherwise called Purusha and Prakriti, or Atma and Anatma, or in the second chapter it was called Dehi and Deha. So the discrimination between these two principles is the aim of every spiritual seeker. So therefore he says, Evam, in this manner, in the manner described in the 13th chapter from verse 2 up to 24, which is elaborately taught, Antaram, the difference between Kshetram, which is the object of experience, and Kshetrajnaha, which is the subject of experience, otherwise called Prakriti, the object of experience, and Purushaha, the subject. In fact, the whole creation contains only two things, subject and object, and the difference between the experiencer and the experience, right? That is what is talked about in Drik Drishya Vivekaha. And in fact, on that day, somebody had a question when I said Shankaracharya. Yes, Vidyaranya Swami was also a Shankaracharya, but definitely not the Adi Shankara. There is some controversy on who exactly was the author, but many people, many acharyas agree that it is Vidyaranya Swami, right? Who was also one of the Shankaracharyas of the Sringeri Mata. So, Drik Drishya Viveka was a work by Vidyaranya Swami discussing the difference between the experiencer and the experienced. This antaram, this difference, right? Which is I, the Atma, don't have CAD, change, attributes and divisions, right? I'm free from all of these. Whatever I experience from the mind onwards up to the furthest star, everything is matter, subject to change, attribute and division. And I will never be affected by anything that happens. This alone, right, Swamiji presents as the 5 capsules of Vedanta, right? The 5 capsules of Vedanta are what? The first capsule is, I am of the nature of eternal and all-pervading consciousness. The second capsule is, I am the only source of permanent peace, security and happiness. World may give some security and peace, but never permanent peace, security and happiness, right? So, world is not permanent. The things in the world keep changing. Therefore, it cannot give me permanent peace, security and happiness. The third capsule is, by my mere presence, I give life to the material body, mind, sense complex. And through this body, mind complex, I experience the material universe, right? So by my mere presence, not by doing something, Atma is saying, right? So I am of that higher nature, Atma, right? The fourth one is, I am never affected by, right? Just as Akasha and Prakasha are never affected by any of the activities, right? I am never affected by any event that happens in the material world or in the material body-mind complex, right? And the fifth capsule is, by forgetting my real nature, right? If I forget my real nature, life will become a burden. I will convert life into a burden, because once I forget my real nature, I will mistake myself to be a limited individual. And once I become an individual, my power, resources, everything is all heavily limited, right? And 4 types of emotional problems will hit me. What are the 4? Helplessness, right? Anger, frustration, and then depression, right? So helplessness leading to anger, anger leading to frustration, and frustration leading to depression. You can never avoid as an individual. So transcend individuality. Therefore, the fifth capsule is, by forgetting my real nature, I convert life into a burden And by remembering my real nature, I convert life into an entertainment or blessing, right? And I have an opportunity to claim my real glory, right? As the Purusha, as the Atma. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, right? May you remember and convert life into a blessing, an asset, and not a liability. So, yaha jnana chakshusha antaram veti, the one who knows. And finally Lord Krishna makes a very big jump, right? So he says, he talks about it, right? He says, Lord Krishna has talked about the knowledge of kshetrajnaha and kshetram distinction, and he says, I am the consciousness principle, world is the matter. So you should know, right, that there is a big difference between kshetrajnaha and kshetra. No, Lord Krishna is accepting that there are two things. The chapter itself is titled as what? Kshetrajnaha kshetra vibhaga yogaha. So what happens now? This is dvaitam, right? And Upanishad is supposed to reveal advaitam, shantam, shivam, advaitam chaturtam manyate. It is said in Mandukya Karika. So how come Lord Krishna accepts both Kshetram and Kshetrajnaha? Could be a normal doubt to a thinking person, right? So there are two things, both will be limited by the other, right? Therefore, in the conclusion, Lord Krishna says, even though we found Purushaha and Prakriti as two, ultimately you should know that Prakriti does not have an existence separate from Purusha. Therefore, it cannot be counted as a second one. It's exactly like clay and pot. Even though I use two words, clay and pot, really speaking, there is no pot separate from clay. Therefore, ultimately, what is the truth? The entire Prakriti or universe is Nama Rupa only, names and forms, not having a separate existence of its own, exactly like the dream example, right? Like dream, it does not have an existence separate from the observer Atma, right? So if somebody says, oh, I don't feel like that, it means he is in the dream. And for a dreamer, dream is not a dream in dream. And so long as we are ignorant, this dream also, we will never recognize as a dream. This dream of our living in this Jagrata Avastha. So according to Vedanta, this is also another type of dream only. As long as we are ignorant, right, we don't see this dream as a dream, like exactly like the regular dream. Therefore, dream cannot be counted as a second thing. This world cannot be counted as a second thing. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, Bhuta Prakriti Moksham cha, right? Bhuta Prakriti means the world, and the Prakriti, the cause of the world. Prakriti Moksha cha. Moksha means it does not have an existence of its own. Here the word moksha means mithyatvam, the absence of real existence, right? Therefore, there is only one real thing, right? So whoever knows this, Advaitam te param yanti, they will attain the highest supreme, right? Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat, Iti Srimad-Bhagavad-gita Upanishatsu, Iti Srimad-Bhagavad-gita Upanishatsu, Brahma Vidyayam, Yoga Shastre, Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade, Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yogo Nama Trayodasho Dhyayaha, Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yogo Nama Trayodasho Dhyayaha. We'll stop here because I don't think I have time to give a summary of the 13th chapter. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So next Sunday there is no class because it is Saraswati Puja here in India. And after that, on 1st November, I will summarize the 13th chapter. I will try and introduce the 14th chapter also. And if there is any concept that needs revisiting, I'll do a brief 10 or 15 minute session from Introduction to Vedanta, depending on what is required for the next chapter. 13th chapter is a very, very difficult chapter in the Gita because it has a lot of abstract topics, and in case any of you found it very difficult to catch up, it's okay, you can listen again, and over a period of time, by repeated Shravanam, we will get to understand this. So if anybody has any questions, I can take them now. Yeah, please go ahead.
Namaskar, madam.
Namaskar.
What is the purpose of life? From 13th chapter, can we say what about the purpose of life?
See, basically, when we started out, on this journey, the introduction, the very first session on Introduction to Vedanta, if you recollect, we talked about Purusharthas. So in the Purusharthas, we have Artha, Kama, right, Dharma and Moksha. Right? So what happens is, primarily the human janma, the Manushya janma, where you have an intellect and which allows you to think and do things which are right or wrong, and actually influence your, your future. Our Shastra says that we must be aware of the ultimate or higher goal, which is Moksha Purushartha. Okay? So what happens is, when we are so busy running in this world, most often, as Swamiji puts it, 95 to 97% of the people, first of all, are only aware of Artha and Kama, right? In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, people just stop with that. So they don't even, Dharma, Hindus, who believe in Punyam and Papam are aware. They don't even go near Moksha and Moksha Purushartha, and what is it to even go on a spiritual journey, and what are the benefits, the side benefits of embarking on a spiritual journey, like FIR reduction. I've talked about all these in many classes. The emotional disturbance coming down, samatvam, equanimity, etc. Right? So the purpose of life is all of that, right? And only in human or Manushya Janma, you are able to not only exhaust your prarabdha karma, you are also able to influence your future by undertaking certain positive karmas. And that karma, should it be towards artha or kama, or should it be towards dharma, moksha, that is a conscious choice that the human being is capable of making. He is bestowed with that skill and he can make. So that is actually the real meaning of a life of a human being and where he should be headed.
Thank you.
Bhuta Prakriti means the world, yes. Yes. Anybody else? Any other questions? Very nice question. But if you want, you can revise the very first Introduction to Vedanta, where I've talked about the 4 Purusharthas. Anybody else? No. Okay. So the next chapter is going to be a very, very different chapter Gunatraya Vibhaga. So we will discuss more about it. If there is something that I have to introduce, I will do that also in the next class, along with a summary of the 13th chapter. So please remember, we don't have a class on 25th. Our next class will be on 1st November, that is the Sunday after next. Wish you all a Shubha Navaratri, Shubhashayaha. Thank you all. Hari Om.